Are
We're
you
recording.
looking to get into gaming? Have you let the world pass by without ever picking up a controller? Or you're just waiting on the right game to dive in? Join us on the Loading Screen Lounge where the Beers of War will tell you what game may be right for you.
Games, not just any games, but video games, the world of video games. A lot of us in this chat room right here, all of us probably have grown up with it at some point. I know I started when I was like about 4 years old and everything, and I've been hooked ever since, And so I had an idea. I thought we'd run it by, people watching the podcast, you gentlemen. I wanted to know what video game, if you were to, let's say you got a friend that came up to you and said, "Hey, I want to learn how to play video games." Well, what console would you recommend? Or better yet, what game would you start them off with? Now, I actually had to think about this for a while because this recently happened to me. I had a friend that came up, I want to learn to play video games like you. Now, a lot of us in this chat room right here are kind of elitists when it comes to video games. So just diving into games that we like is probably not the best way to go right now. So I did a lot of research, okay, some research, but I started looking up like what games people should recommend for first-time video gamers. And a lot of them were not so surprising, I would say. So like I'll give you an example. So for relaxing simulations and life management games, which we're pretty much doing right now playing, the number one that came up was Stardew Valley. Now, I personally only played this game maybe 30 minutes of my life. I haven't finished it or anything like that, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. And it's like right up there with Minecraft, which was another one that was actually recommended. So my story is I decided to get a game that I thought would be a little immersive, maybe some story, some kind of background, but something completely different, nothing based on really reality. And the game I ended up picking was, and it was the first time I was playing it along, it was called Stray. I believe you can play it on a PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. I'm not sure if it's on Nintendo. It probably is. But you're basically a cat. All right. You're just a cat. And you're exploring this utopian world, right? Humans aren't even around or anything like that. And, how you figure, how can you get a story like that? Well, the way we started playing it, I actually kind of started getting into it, with the exploration and everything. There's a lot of puzzles involved. And, I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of got into video games too, because it really did stimulate my mind. It really, in a way, kind of makes you sharper too. But it was easy to follow. It was easy to play. And for the most part, now there were times I had to take over on some of the difficulty parts, but it was a good start off, I think. And I would probably agree with some of the recommendations that I had read over here. Like they even said Animal Crossing, New Horizons. And here's a fan favorite for Mrs. Sir Bigness. I hope I could say that right. Slime Rancher was actually one of them. So I thought that was pretty cool too, So now, if I had not done my research or anything like that, I probably would have started them off on maybe something more retro, like the original NES, right? How do you go wrong with that? So, or if I wanted to get a little bit more, if I were to do anything like on, let's say, Xbox or something like that, then yeah, I would probably do what I did with Stray or Minecraft or something to that effect. I think they're just, as long as you can ease somebody in, especially a newcomer in the video game world, I wanted to bring this person into the fold and whatnot. I don't want to run them off, So I'm playing games like Ark, Survival Ascended. That's a pretty difficult game to play, and it's not even, it's really hard to explain to somebody, especially who's never even picked up a controller. The controllers of what they were back then and what they are now has just definitely evolved over the years and everything. So I can understand that a controller can even be a little intimidating, right? But as long as you're right there. So I did learn some pointers, when you're coming to teaching somebody playing a video game and everything, root for them, all right? Don't get frustrated. Just sit there, just watch, help out when you can and everything like that. Encourage them. Because anything that, from what I've learned, that if any of those were neglected, you're going to lose that person, Because we played video games all the time. We have a certain way that we do play video games, and I get that. But I totally want to make sure that whoever's going to learn how to play video games, that they truly enjoy them. And you want to talk to the person first before just jumping in. You know, hey, what kind of game are you looking for? You know, what are you into? Like, what genre? Action, puzzles, adventures, RPGs. You know, you might have to explain some of those to them. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. So that was a little bit of a story I had right there. I wanted to share with you fellas and the rest of the world and everything. So, what about you, Bigness? What do you got?
Well, I've been a gamer since 1980,
Cool.
and yeah, it's 2026, so we're headed towards 50 years. My introduction to video gaming was the Atari 2600
Oh,
that my parents bought for me. I remember everything from the drive to getting home with it to playing Pac-Man, Combat, all of those things. Um, and so it has been a part of my life. It has literally been the singular thing, that and like watching football have been the singular things that I have done. The singular, I guess you could say, secular things, not counting spiritual things that I've done my entire life. So when I got married, my wife is not a gamer or was not a gamer, um, and kind of thought of it as a trivial hobby. Thought it was something that kids did. Didn't really find a whole lot of value in it. And then this is where the three of us kind of all come in, because it was Matilda's wife who recommended that she play Slime Rancher. And you know, the thing with gaming is, well, I'll continue that part of it. Um, she started playing Slime Rancher, and it took off like a rocket ship. She is a dedicated gamer now. Probably spends more time gaming, much more time gaming. We're talking on orders of magnitude than I do. She loves Animal Crossing, New Horizons. She she loves the game Splatoon, which is a shooter. It's not a violent shooter per se, because you're using paint and not shooting, you know, for blood and that kind of stuff. Um, she plays the Switch. She plays Xbox. She plays a PlayStation. She loved the game Astrobot. Absolutely loved the game Astrobot. And I think that kind of, I guess, for people who are intimidated or are kind of, they view gaming strictly as like Call of Duty and 2K and Madden. That's not what gaming is. You get out of gaming what you're really looking to get out. It's like going to the movies now. In fact, I hesitate to even call them video games. They're more of like interactive experiences at this point, because you really are playing, in the case of something like Red Dead Redemption or GTA or Halo, even Gears of War, not Beers of War, Gears of War. You are playing a movie. Mass Effect, you are playing a mini series. It is as interactive, like the choose your own adventure type thing. Imagine that, but with, instead of it being one decision every 5 or 6 pages, it is a million different decisions over a billion different pages. Your story can end up however you choose it to do so. And so if you're looking for something, say maybe you want to get home from work and you want to sit down and relax, Stardew Valley, um, Animal Crossing, New Horizons. That's one that you've mentioned, Ninja. And Animal Crossing, New Horizons, and Stardew Valley. Those games are, I view them almost not even as games, like something like therapy. There is therapeutic. Those are games that got me through the pandemic. It was just the time being isolated at home. It felt like you could get out, experience things, interact with other characters. It was strictly a game where the sole objective was to like catch fish and be nice. And you know, what's wrong with that? You know, not everything needs to be run out, destroy, kill, blow up, assassinate, and, you know, launch nukes and that kind of stuff. Gaming can be whatever you want it to be. So if you're looking to get into gaming, if you're foreign to that entire ecosystem of gaming, look for the things, look to get out of it what you're willing to put into it. Whatever you're seeking in gaming, whether that be action adventure, okay, Call of Duty, Uncharted, again, another game that feels like a movie. You really can get out of it whatever you're willing to, whatever you're looking for. There's something in the gaming world that is exactly what it is you're looking for. What do you think? What do you think, Matilda?
Well, when Ninja brought up the question earlier in the week when we were actually trying to figure out a topic for this week's episode, because it outside of the continued discussion about the Xbox announcement and the change of leadership over there, there's really not much new news going on. No announcements of any consoles or any new games or anything like that. So Ninja brought up the topic to me about introducing somebody new into gaming. And I the first person I thought of I should ask was my wife. And I was like, if you were brand new to gaming and I tried to introduce you to you, from your perspective, what kind of games would you be into? And she brought up a good point is she was like, you need to find out what the person's into, what they like, what they don't like, what kind of movies they in, what kind of shows they liked watching, what kind of what kind of games they play on their phones, something like that. And then you kind of build off of that, and then you need to kind of figure out, okay, then you got to get into, okay, now I know what they like and what they don't like. What games kind of fit that personality or that type? And when me and my wife got together years ago, we I was more into gaming then. She played a little bit, but not as much. And then we got into World of Warcraft, and then that's when she really took off. And then we were playing that for a while, and then one of the guys we were playing World of Warcraft with ended up getting Xbox 360, so we ended up getting one to play with him, and then that's how I met Beer Ninja, and she's developed over that. And the game she probably has the most time played in since the 360 days and when we started was probably Minecraft. So you got to find out what they're interested in and try to introduce that something similar to what they're interested in into the gaming. But you don't want to be like Ninja said, you don't want to introduce them to a game that's overcomplicated and that's going to overwhelm them, and then they're going to be hesitant to want to play or even go into it further, and they're just going to be pushed away. So you don't want to overwhelm or shock anybody. But like some games that like Stardew Valley was a good one. Minecraft's another good one. If you got the Switch, then you can go with the Animal Crossing and what was another one? It's Slime Rancher and stuff like that on the newer stuff. But then you get into like some of the older games and what are some good like multiplayer older games or stuff that they can get in and enjoy. And I think I think if you're really wanting to get somebody started, my opinion, console wise, the Nintendo 64. There's a lot of good games on that system, and I think they're enjoyable enough if they're willing to spend a few days trying to learn the controller layout and how to use it properly. There's a bunch of games on there. I mean, first one always that pops to mind is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Ooh,
And
classic.
I think that game's fun enough, and I think getting somebody new into gaming and getting them started into something like that, it might be something that's challenging, but it's not going to be overwhelming, but at the same time still be fun.
Well,
And long
piggyback
as
off
you're
there,
trying,
I looked that up just now, and it was like one of the number one games that people recommend for it. So yeah, Ocarina of Time.
yeah, that's one of the ones I want to try. I'm trying to find a copy of it for my Nintendo 64, but you just got to make sure you try to find something that's not going to overwhelm them that they're going to also enjoy at the same time because you don't want, like you said, if it's something you're wanting to enjoy, like with a friend or even a significant other, spouse, girlfriend, whatever, and you want to enjoy that time with them, you've got to kind of find something that you both enjoy and what you both are going to like. And speaking of Stardew Valley, just kind of a side note, uh, it is the 10th year anniversary and the new update's coming out, and they just added Clint and Sandy as the two married people you can marry. That's what I got to
Nintendo
say.
60 Nintendo 64. Yeah, that was a great console. I didn't think they had as much of a library as some of the other previous consoles, but it was really good. not only that, here's the 5 that the internet picked out. Super Mario 64, right? And then they also added on the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So if somebody got into Ocarina of Time, and they don't want to stop, Majora's Mask is a good segue to get in there, in my opinion, anyways. Pilot Wings 64 and Wave Race 64 are some of the games that was recommended.
And one of the things with all the three major consoles now, I mean, obviously, if you've got PC, you can play whatever from whatever era, depending on what your Steam membership or what have you. But with the consoles, a lot of them are leaning heavily into the games that they've released in the past. So if there was something maybe that you missed, for whatever reason, either you weren't involved in gaming, or if you're a young person who maybe played the 2018 and now the 2023, I believe, God of War games, but you want to play the ones previous, now those are available through the online stores for a lot of these consoles. So you have an opportunity to kind of learn the backstory if you're new to gaming from just like an age perspective. You're just now getting to the teens and you're just wanting to explore maybe some of these universes that you've had a chance to experience through more current games. So I'm thankful for that. Unfortunately, I feel like gaming companies now are leaning a little too heavily on their back consoles and maybe not being as innovative in putting out new games as they should be. So once you introduce somebody into the world of gaming and they find out that there's something that they like, in your experience, what did they start to branch out into? Like when, in the case of my wife, she started with Slime Rancher. She moved on to more like community building type games. But Splatoon is a big time departure from like the community building games. It's something vastly different than what she's used to, and she absolutely loves that game. So, in your experiences, what have you found maybe that people who are new to video games, once they establish kind of the thing that's their jam, what do they find that's a new experience that they get into?
I want to say once they find out if that's something they're going to enjoy by playing video games, is a lot of times they kind of start once they feel comfortable with whatever like the console that you're playing, they're more than likely going to start wanting to try to play some of the multiplayer games that you play as well, just to see if they can get into it. So like if you start somebody off on Minecraft on Xbox or PlayStation, preferably Xbox, um, and they see you playing Ark, well, if they've been playing Minecraft for a while and they're getting kind of comfortable with the controls and the gameplay and style, that's going into a game like Ark Ascended might be something they try something a little bit more difficult, and they may enjoy it. I mean, and then they may not. It depends on what their preferences are and what their tolerance for learning is. Because I know you you play games, especially if you play a new game and you're trying to learn it out, and it gets kind of frustrating. It kind of turns you off. And you don't and that's what you're trying to avoid with them as well, is to try to avoid them getting turned off by games, but I I just think if they get comfortable and see you play and seeing you having fun, they may be more willing to try some of the a little bit harder games that you're playing. What say you, Ninja?
You bring up a good point about that because sometimes when you're playing a video game, somebody just happens to walk in or whatever, hey, what you playing, what's it about, and everything. You got to be very careful on how you explain it. Sometimes when you're just immersed in a video game, you're not giving out all the good details to kind of lure them in, because you're just so enthralled in it. But I will say this. I think now, if anybody wants to become a video gamer or at least get into the world or the realm of possibility of it, now is more time than ever to get into it, because we got things like, and I'm not promoting this in any way, you got the PlayStation store, you got the Game Pass, right? And I think Nintendo has their own store. You can actually go through those stores now and read the games and see if it's something they'd be interested in learning to play or whatnot. That's a good way. So we got a lot more references now when it comes to picking video games than we did. Well, heck, I'd say what, 25, 30 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
back in the day, when we got our news from a magazine. You know, we got our news from a magazine, or you know, you waited till you went to school until your friend was telling you about it. You know, and you know, so it's just like now everything's just at the palm of our hands and whatnot. So I think with you know, with subscriptions like that, or at least like, you know, taking advantage of it to see what games you get, you can just play it. And if you don't like it, uninstall it, go move on to the next. And I've done that a lot too. You know, and I found games that I would never, you know, find myself playing and enjoying. You know, I kind of like the idea that we it's a little bit easier for us now to help, you know, people, guide them in, segue them into this world of possibilities, right? Because you said it best, Bigness. It's like playing some of these games is like being in a movie, watching a movie, playing the movie, right? And there's a
Yep.
lot of good stories to be told out there and everything. And I think that's one of the reasons why I also got into gaming was I hated reading. I hated it, you know. And so, you know, every now and then, you know, I collect comic books and whatnot, but you know, when you started getting into the much more into the series of video games and everything, you know, you want to see what's going to happen next. That's how you, because you live it, you play it, right? And so I think that's another benefit that somebody as a first time video gamer should experience. I think every video gamer should experience that for the first time, you know, just being a part of that story, just knowing that you're playing. And now we got games that have multiple endings, you know, so depending on how you play, or you know, what kind of character you want to be, a good guy, a bad guy, you know, that's just like what Matilda was saying. You know, it's like when he asked his wife, you know, what do you look for in a game? Get all the facts, get all the details, find out what they're interested in. And I think it'd be a really awesome experience, and to be a part of that experience, you know, just knowing that, I think that's just it's welcoming in itself. You know.
And I think one of
Well,
the
I got
things that's happened over the last, I would say the last 15 years, you think of gaming. Gaming is a 45 to 50-year-old industry at this point, well established. So over the last 10, 15 years, you see games now seeking to do something maybe that they didn't do before, and that's elicit emotion. Um, you become attached to the characters. There are events in those games that are deeply heartbreaking. I think of Gears of War. Spoiler
Oh, I
alert!
knew you were going to bring it up. Oh,
Yeah, Gears of War. A matter of fact, on Threads a couple of weeks ago, there was a poll: what gaming experience traumatized you the most? And
part two.
probably it was split about 40-40 between Arthur Morgan and his horse passing away in Red Dead Redemption,
Oh, thanks for
and
letting me know.
Dom in Gears of War.
Too. Yeah.
Gears of War 2. Yeah,
Well,
Gears of War 3.
I was gonna play Red Dead Redemption 2, but now I know how it ends. It's all right. I'll probably
You've
forget
had
it.
9 years. You can't blame me for that.
You're right. You know, you're right. I can't.
Yeah,
But
you've had 9 years.
and
you bring up a good point. You bring up a
and
good
if I'm
point.
not mistaken, I think it is free on the PlayStation Store right now.
Oh, that's cool.
So your excuse is where?
It's back there still in its
Where's
saran
your
wrap
excuse? Where'd you
packaging.
hide it? It's back there. Okay, is that the neon light that's your excuse? The neon light behind you? Yeah, there it is. There it
I
is.
got the PlayStation.
Shiny excuse.
I want to go back and touch on something Ninja was referring to, talking about how years ago when we got into gaming, we either learned about games through commercials, which you don't see much of that anymore.
I don't really know.
That all the time. I mean, you used to be able to see a Toys R Us commercial advertising the new game or whatever. And then gaming magazines. And if you were in a little bit into the internet, yeah, the only time you really used the internet back in that day for gaming was to go to Cheat Code Central to get your cheat codes.
That's right. I remember that.
cheatcc.com. But now if you're another tool, if you want to get somebody interested in gaming and they're kind of curious, YouTube.
Yes.
You can
That
find
is a really good reference.
you can find all the trailers out there that are out there for that game. You can even find people playing the game now, and then they can watch and find out like if that's something they're interested. One of my hobbies is tabletop gaming. And that question gets brought up a lot. What are some if you're trying to introduce somebody into tabletop gaming? And for those of you who don't know, tabletop gaming are games that are a little bit more advanced in like Sorry, Trouble, Monopoly, Life, stuff like that. I mean, they get in a little bit more. There's more game mechanics in it that make it a little bit more challenging in ways. But one of the biggest games and you talk to anybody in tabletop gaming, and what is one of the top games if you're trying to introduce somebody into tabletop gaming, is there's a game called Ticket to Ride. And it's a map, and you're trying to collect cards and place train cars and build like longest routes and complete points. So the map's the United States, so you're trying to get to New York to LA, and you're trying to make sure you get the trains to connect that route. And that is that's considered one of the best introductory games to get somebody more into more advanced, and that usually lights the fire to somebody else. The same thing goes with like video games. It's like you try to get them into that. No, sorry, totally going off topic. Back to the tabletop. Is when I'm trying to find a new game, or me and the wife are like contemplating. I see a game somewhere or on one of my Facebook pages or whatever, and I'm kind of curious. I go on YouTube and go watch gameplay of it to find out if that's something I'm going to be interested in. So now if you're introducing somebody into gaming, there is the ability now for them to actually watch somebody play and see how the game goes and how they interact with it. I mean, granted, kids nowadays, they just go watch people play games instead of trying to learn about the game. But some of us older people, when we go watch people play games, we're trying to learn about a game and not just sit there and watch somebody else play.
So that being said, there's a lot of adventure out there to be had. And if you're contemplating this, if you're watching this video and you've come across this video and you're considering getting into gaming, or even if you aren't considering getting into gaming, and I can tell you this, if you are not, some of the best stories that are being told right now are being told with a controller. Video gaming isn't a toy. It is an opportunity for you to experience a story or many stories from a first-person perspective and enjoy some things and feel like a hero and have a good time. It's not just for kids. It is an experience that anybody can enjoy. So consider this our invitation on behalf of the Loading Screen Lounge and the Beers of War. Gaming is really, truly for everyone. So get involved. Anything else, gents?
No, I think that about covers it on my end.
So if you've come across this video, please like, share, subscribe. Please make a comment if you aren't into gaming and you're looking to get into it. You're not too old. You're not too young. And it's not a hobby just for nerds. I mean, look at us. We're cool. So thank you again from the Loading Screen Lounge. Thank you again from Beers of War headquarters, from the library, and from the control room. Brother Matilda, will you take us out?
If you drink, may you drink with me.